Sid was an orphan boy who, out of nowhere, was teleported to another world. In this new world, the demons won the war, and humanity was left without a hero. Sid finds the hero's sword and gains divine powers to fight, but discovers he is alone because no one remembers who he is. Many years ago, a massive war broke out between 5 powerful races. All fought to take over the world. In the end, a human hero named Sid sealed away the other races and carried humanity to victory. Now, long after the war, we meet Kai, an ugly boy who works a boring job, guarding the graveyard where demons were sealed. One day, while on a date with his cousin, something strange happens. The world around him starts glitching. The sky flickers, the ground shakes, and then a black hole appears, pulling his cousin in. Everything around him collapses in seconds. Kai suddenly finds himself in the middle of an empty, destroyed city. Confused and alone, he has no idea what just happened. Before he can react, a demon appears and it attacks immediately. Kai dodges, still unsure of what's going on. The demon casts another spell, but Kai grabs his weapon and fires an elven bullet. The bullet works because the demon's magic is based on elven energy. The demon attacks again and Kai charges, using his weapon like a sword. He pulls the trigger at close range, setting off a drake bullet that explodes like a dragon's breath. The demon is defeated. Kai is shocked. He never used his skills in real combat before, and he didn't expect them to work this well. Another demon appears, sensing danger. It begins casting a powerful spell. Just in time, Kai's classmates and friends show up and cancel the magic. They all escape together in a car. Kai is overwhelmed. Things get even worse when his closest friends, Saki and Ashran, don't seem to remember him at all. They take him to a shelter and explain that humanity lost the war 30 years ago. Now, only a small group of humans remains, living underground as part of the resistance. At the shelter, Kai meets the resistance commander, Jean, who is also his cousin and girlfriend. But she ignores him completely, showing no sign of knowing who he is. Back in his room, Kai searches for answers. He checks all the records and discovers something shocking. There is no mention of him or Sid, the hero who once saved the world. Everything else matches what he remembers. The other 4 heroes, one for each race, still exist. But this time, humanity never had a hero and the demons won. One thing doesn't make sense. The graveyards for sealing the 4 races still exist. The next day, Kai borrows Ashran's car and drives to the graveyard he used to guard. He finds the entrance and explores inside. Deep within, he discovers Sid's legendary sword. As he touches the sword, a strange voice enters his mind. And he suddenly gets teleported. He wakes up in a strange, heavenly place. In front of him is a chained girl, clearly not human, bound to a massive pillar. She looks weak and helpless, and begs him to be saved. The girl introduces herself as Renee before falling to her knees. Kai gets worried and steps in to help. While staying cautious, he warns her not to attack and activates the sword by saying, The blade shines and he uses it to slice the pillar in half. Right away, Renee stands up and scolds him, believing he's a low-ranked demon. Kai tries to figure out what's going on, but she starts attacking with magic. He dodges the first spell, but a second one is already coming. He hesitates, then decides to trust his sword and cuts the spell in half. Renee is surprised a low-level demon could block her magic, but Kai explains he's human. She apologizes for her behavior and admits she has a deep hatred for demons. Kai accepts the apology and asks about her race, but Renee refuses to answer. When he asks where they are, Renee says she doesn't know either. She remembers fighting Vanessa, the hero of the demons, and then suddenly being trapped in this strange place. Kai realizes this means Renee must be powerful to even stand against Vanessa. Renee confirms it but is also impressed by Kai, since he was able to cancel her magic. Suddenly, a black hole opens behind her, and a strange monster girl steps out. She announces that Renee's identity has awakened and that Kai's threat level to the new world is now at its maximum. She attacks, but Kai and Renee dodge and run. As they flee, the monster girl uses a black hole to trap Renee. Then she summons magic orbs to torture her. Seeing this, Kai finds the courage to strike and slices off the monster's arm with his sword. The monster girl recognizes the blade as the forbidden sword, but can't understand why it's here. Taking the chance, Kai and Rin escape through a light portal. On the other side, Rin hugs him. She finally opens up, revealing that every race rejected her because of her origin. The demons even called her an abomination. That's why she fought Vanessa. Kai relates to her. None of his friends remember him, and it feels like he's in a different world, one where demons have taken over human cities. But Renee is confused. She remembers humans were starting to win the war just before her fight with Vanessa. Kai wants answers, but Renee can't remember anything clearly. Still, he's relieved to find someone who shares the same knowledge as him. He calls her his equal. They decide to leave, but Renee collapses under the sunlight. Kai carries her back to his room in the underground city. Later, Renee starts to believe they really are in an alternate world where the demons won. She thinks their only hope is to escape and return to the correct timeline. That night, Renee wakes Kai. She senses demons nearby. Moments later, the underground city is attacked. Kai realizes the humans living here are trapped without anyone strong enough to protect them. Then it hits him. Maybe he's the only one in this world who can act as Sid, the hero of humanity. Kai rushes to help. He uses everything he remembers from his world, battle knowledge, strategy, and techniques, to help the others fight. With martial arts, sword strikes, and magic-canceling bullets, he helps turn the tide, fighting alongside Renee. After seeing his skills, Saki and Ashran take him to Jean, hoping he can help the resistance. Kai tells his story, but the officers don't believe he's from another world where humans won the war. They mock him. Jean-Hyun, however, remembers how Kai seemed to know her when they first met. Curious, she asks about their relationship in his world. Kai explains they were step-cousins. He starts sharing details, names of her father and grandfather, that only someone close to her would know. Jean is shocked and ends the meeting. Later that day, she calls him back. She still doesn't believe his world exists, but admits the personal details rattled her. She decides they should rely on his battle skills and knowledge, especially since the city's location has been exposed. Some demons escaped during the last fight. Jean wants to strike the escaping demons, but Kai disagrees. Attacking them might bring even more demons to the city. Instead, he suggests they hit the royal capital. Jean is stunned. That would mean facing Vanessa, the demon hero who defeated humanity and took over the capital in a single night. Kai understands the risk but feels confident. He now has Sid's sword and Rennie by his side. Jean isn't sure about letting them lead, but Kai reminds her that in his world, Sid defeated Vanessa alone. He admits he doesn't know if he can win, but if he does nothing, he wouldn't be able to face the versions of Saki and Ashran from his own world. This may be their only chance. Most of the demon army is busy fighting the other three races at the borders. Only about 10% are left guarding the capital. Kai believes they should strike now. Jean agrees. They gather the troops and prepare for battle. Using a hidden underground tunnel, they head straight toward the capital, ready for war. Kai and Rina join forces with Saki, Ashran, and a few others as they begin their mission to attack the capital. Jean and the rest of the troops stay behind, while Kai's team pushes forward toward their final target, Vanessa. Saki and Ashran are given a key role: reach the palace's control room and shut down the lights after Kai and Renee head up to face Vanessa. But just as the mission starts moving smoothly, an infrared alarm goes off. Their positions are exposed. The group rushes forward, but along the way they run into demons who stop them after spotting Renee's wings. The demons call her disgusting. The insult stings, but Renee stands her ground. She builds an ice wall, cutting herself off from the group so Kai can continue on alone. The demons surround her and begin insulting her even more, calling her an abomination. They can't understand how she smells like an angel, a demon, an elf, a dwarf, a spirit, and a dragon, all at the same time. Renee doesn't back down. She casts several powerful spells and admits she knows what she is, but still hates demons more than anything. Her spell explodes with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, Kai reaches Vanessa's chamber. She greets him calmly, trying to tempt him, but quickly realizes this is the human using elven bullets. When Kai explains he comes from a world where humans won the war and sealed away the demons, Vanessa laughs it off, until he mentions the name Sid. Hearing the name makes her panic.
Sid.
Vanessa mutters something about Sid and world reincarnation, but refuses to explain. Instead, she casts a powerful spell. Kai counters with his gun, canceling her magic and slicing her chest, only to realize it was an illusion. She attacks from behind, but fails again. Her eyes widen as she watches his sword unleash a dragon breath-like attack. She now knows he's not lying, but she doesn't stop. She begins casting her most powerful spell, one strong enough to destroy any race. Kai dodges, but the attack blasts a hole through the wall. Distracted, he's caught off guard as she casts another spell beneath his feet, blowing apart the floor. He manages to escape just in time. At that moment, Renee arrives to help. Her body is covered in injuries. Kai realizes that if it had been him in her place, he would be dead. Even though she's hurt, Renee steps forward to fight. But just as she's about to move, a massive black hole forms in the sky. It traps Vanessa in dark chains. From the black hole, a monster girl appears. She decides to eliminate Vanessa, explaining that hearing Sid's name caused her mind to break, an influence that could destroy this world. She begins casting a death spell. Vanessa, furious and refusing to die like this, unleashes her true demon form. She grabs the monster girl by the head, calling her and fires her strongest magic attack. The spell doesn't destroy the monster girl, but it deals heavy damage, forcing her to retreat into the black hole. Kai watches everything, amazed. He realizes Renee was strong enough to stand against someone like Vanessa, even if only barely. But Renee begins to panic. Something's wrong. She says this isn't the Vanessa she remembers from her world. This version is much stronger. Vanessa unleashes her full power, ready to kill the two standing before her. Kai braces himself, prepared to fight, but Renee moves first. She dashes forward, grabs Vanessa, and casts a spirit barrier, telling Kai to escape. Vanessa calls the barrier weak, shatters it with ease, and sends Renee flying. Kai sees an opening and tries to counterattack, but Vanessa blasts him with devastating magic. His body is thrown against the wall, leaving blood splattered across the stone. Renee stares in horror as Kai slumps to the ground, bleeding out. She realizes this must be the end for him. Vanessa mocks her, but instead of despair, Renee feels something else. Rage. Fueled by burning hatred, she unleashes all her power. Her body transforms, revealing her true form, a hybrid of all 5 races. She charges at Vanessa, slamming her into the wall, but Vanessa catches her arm and sneers. The demon mocks her, blaming Renee for Kai's death. She says Kai might have lived if Renee hadn't hidden her true form. Vanessa claims she was even willing to let him go, but Renee was too afraid of showing him what she really was, too afraid he would see her as a monster. Tears stream down Renee's face. She blames herself for Kai's death. With no way to bring him back, she chooses another path. She begins casting a curse spell. Blood pours from their bodies as the curse takes hold. But before Renee can finish it, she collapses to her knees. Confused, she looks up at Vanessa, who laughs. Vanessa reveals she had prepared the palace itself. A hidden spell protects her from curses and reflects their effects. Because Renee is spirit, celestial, and beast all at once, the backlash is triple. Her body writhes in pain. Broken, Renee accepts her fate. She weeps, apologizing to Kai for failing him, as Vanessa summons flames to end her life. At the last second, Kai pulls her away. She stares in disbelief. He's alive. He explains he only survived thanks to her buying him time. Vanessa, shocked, cannot believe any human could live through her spell twice at close range. Kai knows the truth. It's the sword that saved him. Now he steps forward with the same resolve Renee had shown. Vanessa mocks him, claiming he's no different from the countless humans before him. They always shout about strength, spirit, or the future, but in the end they are nothing but insects making noise. Other races have heroes. Humans do not. Kai answers her with determination. He swears to stand as the representative of humanity. Vanessa conjures a massive meteor. Kai slices it apart with the sword and signals his allies. The lights in the palace go dark. Vanessa realizes his plan. Humans have no magic to see in darkness, but she notices his sword glowing and targets it. When the lights suddenly return, she realizes she's been tricked. Renee is holding the sword, making her the target. Kai, hidden, uses his 10 years of martial arts to launch Vanessa into the air. He catches the sword thrown back to him by Renee and delivers a final slash. The demon hero falls to her knees, her body starting to shatter. But before fading, she reveals the truth. Sid predicted this future. He foresaw that one of the other 3 heroes would rewrite the world. To prepare, he gave his sword to Vanessa, believing it was the only key to set things right. Kai doesn't understand. Why would Sid entrust his blade to an enemy? Vanessa explains there are events in the past Kai knows nothing about. Something called Zero Code, a forbidden magic hidden in his world. Her body begins to vanish. Before disappearing, she congratulates Kai for outsmarting her, but promises that if they meet again, she will fight him seriously. As a succubus, moments later, Jean broadcasts across the city. The humans have reclaimed Urzak, the human capital, and defeated the demon hero. But Kai and Renee realize something critical. They were wrong to think only they were displaced. The truth is the entire world was rewritten, and they are the only ones unaffected. Even as they wrestle with this revelation, Jean announces she is resigning as commander. The other 3 races have taken 3 human territories, but rebel forces still fight back. Now that Vanessa is defeated, everyone believes Kai is the new human hero. Jean asks him to join her in reconquering the world. To her surprise, Kai accepts immediately. He had already decided on this path. Later, Jean rallies the troops, laying out her plans. In the crowd, Kai tells Renee his own. He will end the war himself, so he will take his place. Renee is stunned as she listens to him. For a moment, it feels as if she is staring at Sid himself. On the journey to the Io Federation, Renee wakes up after having a strange dream. In it, she is being carried in Sid's arms, but the dream suddenly shifts when they come across one of the monster girls. She opens her eyes, unsettled, and hears Kai explaining their next plan. Kai tells the group they are heading to help Io's rebel forces fight against the Celestial race. Saki is confused. To her, the Celestials are supposed to be an alliance race made up of elves, dwarves, fairies, and angels. Kai confirms this, but he calls them cowards. He explains that they don't fight directly, relying instead on magical items and tricks. The good news is that their guns are far more effective against Celestials than they were against demons. Eventually, the group reaches Io. Their arrival causes a stir. People crowd around them with cheers and excitement, as if they were a K-pop band. They are immediately escorted to meet the leader of Io Federation, but Jean's secretary Fallen warns them ahead of time. The leader is not to be admired. He's envious, suspicious, and obsessive. To make matters worse, he calls himself Emperor. The group quickly finds out the truth for themselves. The man is arrogant, clueless, and impossible to reason with, an ass instead of a brain. Worse, no one in Io seems to know the location of the celestial hero. With no choice, Jean takes command of the situation. She announces that she will lead the search herself and requests men from Io to join the mission. The group quickly heads to the Elven Forest, but there's already a problem. The dumb Io leader has decided to search for the celestial hero himself. Kai suspects the one behind that decision is the leader's secretary, who might actually be an elven spy hiding her ears. Jean agrees and believes there could be even more spies inside Io's army. She thinks they should investigate further. Inside the forest, they notice guns scattered on the ground. Following the trail leads them to a hidden location where Renee spots a teleportation gate. She activates it, and the group is transported into the real elven forest. Right away, they encounter a girl running past them. The girl pauses, confused, because, except for Renee, none of them has any magical power. She asks what kind of elves they are, but Ashran answers that they're humans. The girl flees, and the group chases her until she leads them straight into a squad of elven archers. The archers raise their bows, ready to fight, but Io's secretary orders them to stand down, revealing herself as a spy. Jean and the elf leader begin to negotiate. Jean demands the release of the human hostages, but the elf refuses, saying instead that they want Kai to fight the angels. Kai is confused. Celestials are supposed to be an alliance of elves, dwarves, fairies, and angels. Why would the elves betray the angels? The elf explains that the angels betrayed them first. She takes the group to meet Ryron, the elves' maiden. Ryron tells them the truth. The Great Elder was captured by the hero of the Celestials. At first, this hero was kind and gentle, but then he suddenly changed. He began demanding that all races become the servants of angels. Jean and the others are suspicious. They think this might be a trap, with the elves joining forces with the angels to wipe them out. But Ryron offers her life as a guarantee. If it's a trap, they can kill her. Before leaving, she orders everyone present to avoid a civil war, sending elves, fairies, and dwarves back to their posts. The group sets out right away toward the celestial hero's location. That night, while camping, Ryron asks if Kai's power will work against a celestial. She knows he defeated Vanessa, but celestials are a different type of enemy with different weaknesses. Kai uses the chance to ask if she knows about Sid, but she doesn't. That makes him realize something. The only ones who might know about Sid are the heroes themselves. The next day, Ryron leads them to the teleportation gate that leads into the Angel Palace. Kai notices the gate has a double layer and wonders if it's a countermeasure against humans. Ryron shakes her head. Humans don't even rate as threats. The wards are designed for demons, mythical beasts, and spirits. Kai realizes this is the same pattern as the demons. Most of their forces are stationed at the borders, leaving the palace lightly defended. Ryron confirms it and starts believing Kai didn't defeat the demons by luck. They teleport into the Angel Palace. At once, a strange smell hits them. Moving forward, they find angels lying dead on the ground, while the palace burns around them. Ryron guides them through multiple teleportation layers, but suddenly they are attacked. The attacker is Vicious, a direct servant of Alfreya, the celestial hero. Ryron assumes she must be the one who slaughtered the other angels. Vicious admits it proudly. She says those angels were disloyal fools who refused to follow Alfreya's orders. More importantly, she reveals the great elven leader will soon be executed, as a message that every race must bow to the angels. Phelan, Saki, and Ashran immediately engage Vicious in battle, while the rest of the group follows Ryron deeper into the palace to face Alfreya. Another angel blocks their way in the next layer, but Rin stays behind to fight it. Finally, they reach the inner chamber. Inside a glass cage is the imprisoned Elder Elf, and standing before him is Alfreya himself. But instead of speaking like a leader, he rants about angel supremacy, declaring them the superior race. To Kai and the others, he looks less like a hero and more like the anime version of the mustache tyrant from 80 years ago. Alfreya wants to begin the execution, but Ryron snaps. Furious, she bolts toward him. The celestial hero raises his magic to strike her down, but Kai intercepts with his sword. Alfreya is confused. Why would a human protect an elf? Kai's reason is simple. If Ryron dies, the elves will resent humanity for letting it happen. Alfreya notices Kai's sword and realizes it's special. Kai tells him directly, it's the sword that defeated Vanessa and her magic. The angel laughs. To him, Vanessa must be pathetic for losing against a human. Yet in truth, even he couldn't beat her. Kai sees him as nothing more than a loser who could never compare to Vanessa. At least she never tried to kill her own subordinates. The angel doesn't care. He thinks he's God. Jean, sick of hearing his arrogance, fires her elven bow. The arrow injures him, but Alfreya explains there's a price. Every time a human uses that bow, their life force is drained. The angel attacks, but Ryron blocks it with a barrier. She doesn't want to owe humans anything and insists they need more help. They decide to release the Great Elder. Ryron tries to approach the glass prison while Kai shields her. She strikes with a legendary elven blade, but it shatters instead. She can't understand how Alfreya is using so many powerful artifacts, without exhausting his magic. Alfreya reveals the truth. It's because of his new servant. Black hole opens, the monster girl appears. He introduces her as Last Riser and orders her to attack. Riser unleashes a shock blast. Jean is thrown across the chamber, but Renee arrives in time to catch her. Jean fires another arrow, but Riser takes no damage. Alfreya shifts his focus to Renee, calling her a monster. Kai takes the chance to ask if Alfreya is behind world reincarnation. He isn't. Kai presses further, asking about Sid. Alfreya begins to remember. He mutters Sid's name, calls him a prophet, and admits that Sid gave him something. But before he can explain, Last Riser suddenly turns on him. She strangles the angel, declaring he has been influenced by the taboo word Sid. That influence will destroy this world, and the protocol demands elimination. A black hole opens beneath him. Alfreya is dragged down and disappears. The group is stunned. Nobody understands what just happened. But Kai recognizes it. It's the same thing that almost happened to Vanessa. In shock, they fail to act as Riser jumps back into her hole and vanishes. For a moment, it seems like it's all over. Then a massive dark beam of light splits the chamber. Alfreya reappears. His colors are darker, his wings now black. He declares himself Alfreya's avatar. Riren notices his eyes have changed, as if he's been overwritten. Kai realizes the truth. The same way the world was overwritten, now it's happening to a hero. The avatar attacks with magic too strong for Riren to block. Riren tries to reach him with words, but he ignores her. Celestials are known for using artifacts, but he's now burning his own life force instead. He slams her with a light beam. She barely blocks with her strongest shield. But when he raises his sword, the shield isn't enough. Alfreya swings to cut her in half. Kai steps in, blocking the blow. His rage bursts. Riren always looked up to Alfreya, but this isn't the leader of the Celestials anymore. This is only an imitation, copying the powers of a hero. Kai locks swords with Lord Alfreya and confronts him about the uniqueness of his sword. He noticed that his sword regenerated every time he broke through Riren's barrier. Lord Alfreya reveals that his sword is an absolute masterpiece from the forges of heaven, and its power cannot be blocked by a mere magic item wielded by a little kid. He pulls away from the sword lock and transforms his sword into its true form. He declares himself the ruler of the world because he is above all the Celestials and ultimately above all magic. He commands Kai to become his slave and worship his supreme power. Kai points out that the four heroes are supposed to protect their people, not use their power to force them into servile obedience. Lord Alfreya mocks Kai and the entire human race for being so pathetic that they have to depend on others for their protection. Kai decides to show him how that weakness has bred an indomitable spirit inside humans. Kai rushes at Lord Alfreya, who brings down his divine sword on him, but Kai deflects it with his blade. Lord Alfreya swings at Kai again, but he parries it deftly. Lord Alfreya is stunned for a second because he can't process how Kai is deflecting his strikes. Kai goes in for a hit, but Lord Alfreya regains his focus and jumps out of range. Both Riren and Jean are surprised that Kai has held his own against Lord Alfreya for so long. Though Lord Alfreya has the better sword, Kai outclasses him in sword skills. However, Riren doesn't think he has the upper hand, because Lord Alfreya still has something up his sleeve. As if on cue, Lord Alfreya throws his sword into the sky because he doesn't need it anymore, and it lodges into the ground. The sky platform begins to collapse, and Jean wonders if Lord Alfreya plans to bring down the Angel Palace. Riren asks to lend some strength from her so they can take down Alfreya together. Kai rushes at Lord Alfreya and tries to attack, but Lord Alfreya puts up a shield to block his attacks. Kai keeps attacking regardless. He breaks through the shield and lands a cut on Lord Alfreya. Lord Alfreya has had enough of Kai's insolence. He grabs his neck and picks him up. Kai struggles to break free from his grip, but he is losing consciousness fast. He wonders why Lord Alfreya is so different from Vanessa. It was much easier to get her back to her senses, but it's looking almost impossible to do the same for Lord Alfreya. Riren and Jean link up and conjure the power of the seven princesses. They draw their bow and fire a longbow at Alfreya, and he drops Kai. The dust clears and Alfreya screams out in outrage at losing half of his body to the shot. Kai realizes he is so weak and vulnerable that a single attack will take him out. He capitalizes on that moment to hit him with an invisible Kamehameha and then spins him upside down like a road sign. He finishes him off with an impact blow to the stomach, and Lord Alfreya falls to the ground. He loses his celestial essence, and he's disappointed at his fall from grace. Kai realizes he has finally regained his senses, and Riren is glad to have the normal Lord Alfreya back. They realize that the platform is about to collapse, so they scramble to get off safely. Riren helps Lord Alfreya to his feet, but he feels ashamed for what he has done. He doesn't think he deserves such affection from Riren anymore, but she assures him that he's still in her good books. He asks her to inform the Celestials that he caused everything that happened, so they don't blame her. He turns to Kai and informs him that Sid told him that it was supposed to exist. Kai doesn't understand the context of his words and asks Lord Alfreya to explain what he was referring to. Lord Alfreya admits that he also doesn't know what Sid was talking about, but he noticed that he was frustrated when he spoke to him. Lord Alfreya reveals that the cause of the world reincarnation is hatred. He acknowledges that Kai is different because he fought so hard and risked his life to save an elf. He charges him to shatter the hatred that has engulfed the world and put an end to the world reincarnation. Lord Alfreya crumbles to dust and the wind sweeps him away. They escape, get off the platform, and meet up with Raffaello and the Great Elder. The Great Elder figures out that Lord Alfreya is gone, but she is glad that everyone else is safe. Raffaello still scolds himself because he was too powerless to do anything, despite noticing the changes in Lord Alfreya. The Great Elder points out that he's not the only one to blame. Kai asks them when Lord Alfreya's behavior started changing. They reveal that he began growing distant from his other angels after his subordinate appeared. Kai can't quite process why the last riser would attack Kai if he claimed it was his subordinate. He recalls that it first appeared when he rescued Renee, almost as if it was monitoring her. Now Kai is paranoid because he thinks Renee will be targeted again. Renee dreams about her escape from the Celestial Palace. She trips and falls and Sib picks her up. Sib notices Last Riser on their tail and he wonders if he is the one responsible for what happened to them. Last Riser goes in to attack them, and Rhina jerks awake to see Kai watching over her. She sits up and hugs him. Kai is glad that she is awake and responsive. She slept so long that he was worried that she would never wake up. Jean breaks up their hug, which had lasted a little bit too long. She questions Renee about her race, but Renee doesn't even know her own race. Jean wonders why she kept it secret for so long. She assumes that Reen was scared of being mistaken for a spy and punished. She assures her that she has nothing to be afraid of because Kai has vouched for her. She is also indebted to her because she saved her life. Rina is relieved that Jean has accepted her as an ally of the human race. Kai suggests informing Saki and Aishran about their new partnership, but Jean points out that it may cause discord among other soldiers, even if the two take the news well. She decides it's best they keep it a secret for now. Some days later, Jean meets up with the Great Elder to discuss a truce. The Great Elder agrees to the truce on the condition that humans aren't allowed to enter their forest for that year, while Celestials aren't allowed to enter human cities. Jean agrees to her conditions and promises to keep the Elo rebel army in check. The Great Elder announces the establishment of the truce with everyone present as witnesses. She also presents them with some complimentary gifts. Jean unwraps her gift, and she is surprised to see that it's the long bow of the mood, but it has been fixed. Kai opens his present, but he doesn't know what he got. Ryron explains that they are bullets he was using to cancel magic. She explains that the dwarves took interest in his weapons and built the bullet after she described the kind of weapons he uses to them. Raren points out that she smelted the core herself, and Kai is impressed. He is pleased that he has 11 bullets at his disposal, and he can't wait to try them out again. The Great Elder commends them for the great service done to all races. She points out that the Celestials would have been plunged into war if not for their act of bravery. She wonders if they are also planning to war against the beasts of the South and the West, but Jean refuses to give out their tactical battle plans. The Great Elder finds her reservations reasonable, but she figures out that they will need to pass through the Celestial fields either way. She offers to give them a guide, but Jean doesn't want her to stress over something so trivial. The Great Elder insists that she'll send a representative to help guide them. Jean doesn't understand why the Great Elder is so insistent, and the Great Elder explains that they want to know exactly what happened to Lord Alfreya. She points out that he started acting strangely 10 years ago, when he confronted an intruder who crossed the western border. The intruder was the hero of the mythical beasts and the Fang King, named Wrath. Raffaello recalls seeing them during their confrontation. Back then, none of them had their subordinates with them, but it looked like they were conspiring about something. Soon after that, the last riser appeared at Lord Alfreya's side. Jean now understands that the Great Elder wants someone to escort them, so they can obtain the truth. However, Raren thinks this is a heartless mission to subject an elf to, because they will be a hostage. She points out that if the truce is broken, the escort will be the first to be executed. She doesn't think anyone would volunteer for such a risky mission, but the Great Elder appoints her as the escort. Ryron protests the Great Elder's decision and wonders why she chose her. The Great Elder points out that she is the most fitting, because she hasn't left Kai's side since they arrived. Renee has been suspicious of Kai all this time. She accuses her of sticking so close to Kai and playing it off like it's normal, so she doesn't get discovered. Ryron asks Kai to say something in her defense, but he welcomes her to the team. The next day, Jean visits Dante. She informs him of the truce with the Celestials and the conditions to be maintained. She thanks him for the supplies he offered for their expedition. Dante is impressed that they managed to take down a Celestial and then form a truce with the elves, but he points out that their previous tactics will no longer be effective. He's certain the spirits and mythical beasts will change their perception of humans and won't take them so lightly anymore. He realizes the rebel army will have to cooperate if they want to stand a chance against the enemy forces. He asks about Balmung. the commander of the Yulun rebel forces who fights against the spirits to the south. Phelan reveals that he is a commander they can trust because he saved her life, and she is indebted to him. Dante points out that they need to establish a proper alliance with Balmug and his army, as they will be engaging in a head-on fight. Phelan is impressed by Dante's tactical ingenuity, and she points out that he would have made a great world leader if he had got rid of his ridiculously inflated ego. Dante points out that he has no need for such a position, and he would rather leave it for Jean. Jean reveals that she also does not need such a position. Her only motivation is to end the war between the 5 races and live in an era of peace. Kyuko tries to run away from Wrath, but he chases after her and knocks her down. He attacks her, but she blocks it and he steps back. She turns into droplets of water and engulfs him in a bubble. Wrath summons his fire around him and tries to heat the bubble to break out, but Kyuko grabs him with a water arm. She slams him into the forest and drags him around like a rag doll. She lifts him again and slams him into the forest. She dives down to meet him, but Wrath calls out the Last Riser. As she approaches him, the Last Riser grabs her. Kyuko dissolves into water droplets and escapes. Meanwhile, Kai has begun a journey with Ryren acting as their guide. She explains that huge hedgehogs paved the path they are following. She warns Kai to be careful because the hedgehogs would crush them to pieces if they are disturbed. Ashran and Saki are frightened by her comment. They wonder why she is taking them through such a dangerous path, and she points out that it is the fastest route to the Yulun Federation. Renee couldn't care less about the dangers on the road. She is sulking because Ryren gets to ride shotgun with Kai while she has to sit in the back with the other nobodies. Ryren points out that it can't be helped because she is the one giving directions to Kai. Saki is apprehensive that the other soldiers may protest when they learn that an elf is accompanying them. Ryren reveals that her garment has cognitive inhibition magic embedded in it, and anyone who doesn't know she's an elf will see her as a regular human. She mocks Rinna for being unable to conceal her identity. Ryren's statement hurts Rinna, and she begins arguing. Kai warns them to settle down so he can concentrate on driving. Jean calls through the radio and asks for a status update. Kai informs her that there are no new changes. She asks Ryren how much farther the Yulun Federation is. Ryren reveals that they will get there in 3 to 4 days. Jean is pleased that things are going according to plan, but she wonders if they'll have a place to camp for the night. Ryren informs her that they can camp at a place with plenty of springs, but it's still a half-day's journey away. Phelan spots something through her window and she calls Jana's attention to it. She looks at the surroundings outside and notices some strange marks. She figures out that a mythical beast made the marks, but she has a hard time believing it because they are still in the low Federation territory. She recalls a previous incident about a dragon terrorizing some soldiers, and she concludes that the mythical beasts are already crossing borders to invade. Meanwhile, Wrath is trying to find Kyuko. He spots some water splattered on the trees, but he figures out that it's not enough to constitute Kyuko. He concludes that she escaped as just her core and retreated to safety. He decides to retreat because there will be other opportunities to take down Kyuko. Later in the day, Kai and the team stop to make camp. The boys take a dip in the springs, and the girls also cool off in their section of the springs. Jian recounts what she spoke to Kai about while Rinna was recovering from their battle with Lord Alfreya. She told him that she still didn't understand the dynamics behind the world's reincarnation and the code's holder. Kai told her he also didn't fully understand it. She advised him to use his weapon cautiously because they now know that normal humans made them. Jean knew she was a pot calling a kettle black because the warning also applied to her. Kai advised her to take a break and stop pushing herself unnecessarily. He pointed out that she didn't need to keep sacrificing her life energy to make elf magic items. Jean told him she had no intention of changing her mind about making those items, and Kai teased her for being too stubborn since she was a kid. Jean didn't care about all that. She only cared about how useful she could be in battle. She pointed out that they should focus on the Last Riser because it was capable of wounding Lord Alfreya. She also remembered that Kai claimed that it also appeared when he fought Vanessa. Kai affirmed that it appeared, but he pointed out that there were no records of the monster in his world. Kai speculated that the Last Riser was monitoring the heroes, and the name Sid determined if the monster became violent or not. Jean wondered what kind of relationship the Last Riser had with the remaining heroes. Kai couldn't provide an answer, so their only option was to keep fighting the monsters until they could bring an end to the War of the Five Races. Renee points out that they still don't know much about the monster that caused Lord Alfreya's transformation. Jean cautions them to remain alert and always be on the lookout for the Last Riser whenever they fight a hero. Renee admits that she is scared of the Last Riser. She can't explain it, but whenever she looks at it, her knees always become weak. Jean comforts her and apologizes for frightening her unintentionally. Suddenly, they hear an explosion in the distance. The soldiers scramble to arm themselves because they are under attack. A monster appears from the woods, and the soldiers organize into a shooting formation. They fire at the monster, but their bullets barely tickle it. The monster swipes at them with its paw, easily clearing out their shooting formation. The monster lets out a roar which draws Kai to the scene. He sees the monster and recognizes it as a behemoth. He rushes at the behemoth and stabs the monster with his sword. He pulls the trigger but gets caught in the explosion. The force of the explosion propels him back, and he regains his feet. Phelan joins him to face the behemoth, and she orders him to follow her lead. She rushes at the monster from the right flank while Kai attacks from the left. She slashes at the behemoth with her twin swords while Kai stabs at the monster with his sword. He pulls the trigger again, and an explosion goes off on the behemoth's arm. The behemoth flails, and Kai jumps back to avoid getting caught in its path. The monster tries to crush him with its paw, but Phelan gives him a heads up, and he rolls out of the way. Phelan stuns the behemoth with a flash grenade, and she orders a tactical retreat. Kai joins the retreat, but he is surprised that the modified Drake bullets were ineffective against the behemoth. This makes him wonder if the behemoth is stronger than every other mythical beast he has ever encountered. At the center of the camp, Jean directs Groups 8 and 9 to rescue the injured soldiers, while Group 12 retreats to prepare a relief base. The soldiers immediately get into their vehicles to carry out her orders. Kai and Phelan meet up with Jean, and Phelan informs her that a behemoth is attacking them. She speculates that the behemoth was the one that left the marks they had seen earlier on the road. Ryron doesn't think it is possible because they are still in celestial territory. Kai informs Jean that an autocannon is ineffective against the behemoth and advises her to use something more lethal. Fallon points out that they have nothing bigger because they never expected to fight any mythical beasts. She offers to buy Jean some time instead, to let her retreat with the rest of the soldiers. However, Jean isn't interested in retreat. She asks Kai for suggestions on how to defeat the monster. She realized that if they hope to stand a chance against the spirits and mythical beasts, they can't be pushed back by the behemoth. Kai agrees with her, and he reveals that their best strategy would be to aim for the monster's head, as that is its vital spot with the magic organ. Phelan reveals that they already know about the monster's weak spot, but they don't have the artillery to attack it. Jean gets an idea and asks Ryron about a nearby weapon, since they are still in celestial territory. The behemoth keeps approaching their camp, but some soldiers act as distractions. They run between the trees and shoot at it to draw the behemoth's attention to them. Kai and Renee lay in wait until the behemoth is in perfect position for their ambush. Phelan comes out in the open to engage the behemoth in close range. The behemoth strikes at her, but she dodges and activates the flames on her sword. She rushes at the monster and releases arcs of fiery slashes. Kai throws a smoke bomb containing mushroom spores to dull the behemoth's senses. Renee strikes the behemoth with lightning as it tries to recover, and Kai jumps on its head. He plunges his sword into the behemoth's weak spot and releases an explosion of the Drake bullet. However, the behemoth still doesn't fall. It lunges at Renee, and Kai tries to rescue her. He takes a hit for Renee while the behemoth is thrown off balance. The behemoth bangs its head on a tree, and it's dazed for a moment. Ryron teleports the behemoth away to the Purgatory Flower Garden, where it will be burnt to a crisp. Jean notices that Kai is hurt, so she runs to him. Kai is down on one knee as Renee wonders why he shielded her from the monster. Renee panics because she doesn't like seeing Kai hurt, but Kai wants to make sure she is okay. Jean and Ryron reach his side, and Ryron offers to stop the bleeding. She tends to his wounds, and they take him to the infirmary. After getting proper treatment, Kai falls asleep while the others keep watch over him. They also fall asleep, but Kai hears a voice beckoning to him from a building in the forest. He jerks awake, and his movements also wake Renee up. Renee asks him about his dream, but the only thing he is thinking about is the voice that spoke to him because he has heard it before. Rayron wakes up and wonders what is happening. The next day, the troops break camp and begin packing for departure. Saki loads their vehicle with some cargo, but Ashran informs her that their departure time has been extended. She asks for her explanation, but Ashran informs her that he has no idea why. Saki contemplates going for another dip in the hot springs to pass the time until they have to leave. Ryron leads Kai to the building he saw in his dreams, but she doesn't understand why he is interested in it. The building is just filled with stone statues, and there is nothing special about it. Ryron never understood why a human built such a thing in such a remote place. Kai figures out that the building could be a megalith since its origins are unknown. He explains that there are several buildings just like that from his world. He reminds Rain of a megalith she once saw called the Graveyards. He explains that the graveyards are special buildings made to seal the 4 races away. He also informs them that the cold holder was hidden inside a megalith. They continue towards the building, and they finally arrive at the entrance. The voice speaks and tries to convince Kai to enter, but they remain suspicious. The voice notices Kai is hesitant to enter, and she wonders why he is having second thoughts. She informs him that they have finally found the center of the world, and she would welcome them as guests. Ryron also notices that Kai is hesitant, and she asks him what's wrong. He realizes she didn't hear the voice speaking from the building. Meanwhile, Renee abruptly walks up to the entrance and doesn't listen when Ryron calls out to her. Rena informs her that a voice spoke from the building. and she wants to investigate it. Kai asks Ryren to stand guard, and she wonders why she has to stand guard, while the rest of them enter the building to explore. The party enters the building, and Kai notes that it resembles the graveyard. Rena reveals that she senses a strong magical power from within the building. The magic power feels so familiar that Renee almost feels like it's her magic power emanating from the building. They walk down the corridor and they spot some light ahead. They walk towards it and enter a vast room that houses a statue. They walk up to the statue, and Jana wonders if they stumbled upon an ancient temple, because the statue is similar to what Raren was talking about. Kai doesn't know if it's an ancient temple, but he has a pressing feeling that he has seen the statue before. The statue speaks telepathically and thanks them for coming inside. They can't figure out the source of the voice, and the statue identifies as the owner of the voice. The statue assures them that no harm will come to them from her because she is currently powerless. Jean wonders who she is, and she explains that she is in existence from a world where the Great War of the Five Races ended. She points out that she has been waiting for her fateful meeting with the one who would take Cid's place. Kai is surprised the statue knows about Cid, and she reveals that she knows him even more than Kai does. Kai asks for an explanation, and she asks him to take a closer look at her. Kai looks more closely, and it triggers memories of the painting of the prophetic god. The statue reveals that she is known to humans as Arsla Solaka, a praying god who can see the future. Jean doesn't understand what is happening, and Kai explains that Cid was called a prophet because he was the one who ended the war of the five races on his world. The person who gave Cid the prophecy and the shining sword he used to end the war was the prophetic god Arsla Solaka. Jean has a hard time believing a supreme being is now reduced to nothing but a concrete statue. Kai admits that he also has a hard time believing the story because he always thought it was a legend. He is surprised to learn that the legend of Cid's heroism is actually true. Arsla reveals that she had the code holder created during the war to protect humanity as a reward for their dedication to worshipping her. Kai remembers when a voice spoke to him about the code holder having the power to sever the needless fate of death in the present world. He realizes that it was Arsla, and she has been helping him all along. Arsla admits it was her, and she points out that she is glad Kai is the one who found the code holder in a world where Cid is absent. Jean wonders what she wants with them, and Arsla reveals that she has a prophecy to help them on their way. It's the only thing she can do in her present state because she used up all her strength to create the code holder. This is also the reason she was unable to stop the world reincarnation, and Kai asks her to explain what the world reincarnation entails. Arsla has no answers for Kai because it is beyond her knowledge, even as a supreme being. However, she explains that a false prophecy has overwritten the world's history and erased Cid's presence. The world where humanity won was erased, and another one based on false history was created. Jean doesn't believe this because the humans have been fighting for decades. There's no way decades worth of sacrifices and losses are fake. Arsla explains that the reversal of the world is incomplete because humans have not been annihilated. She reveals that it's thanks to their efforts that humanity has not been wiped out. Jean is relieved after hearing this, but Arsla informs her that she still has a mission. She tasks her with the mission of Sib and becoming the hero of humanity. Jean doesn't think she is worthy of the title, but Arsla reveals that she is the best fit. She considered naming Kai the prophet, but she decided against it because his only qualifying quality is his strength, and he isn't even a normal member of their world. Jean wonders what new obligations her title will bring. Arsla reveals that she only has to continue doing what she has always done and lead her subordinates in fighting against the other oppressive races. She assures her that once she defeats the heroes of the four races and the Last Riser, the world will be restored. Kai wonders if she knows what monster is called the Last Riser. Arsla reveals that the Last Riser is a strange monster that doesn't even exist in their original history. Jean wonders what will happen to the world if they eventually defeat the heroes and the Last Riser. Arsla admits that no one has an answer to that question, because it would only be revealed after they defeat the Last Riser. She urges them to focus on the war at hand first and ensure they win so they can get their answer. Arsla has said everything she has to say. She bids Jean farewell as she becomes humanity's hero. The group exits the room, but on their way back, Jean notices that Rena looks distant. Rin tries to play it off as nothing, but Kai also wonders why she has been quiet all through. Rin reveals that Arsla's voice comforted her, but it also gave her a bad feeling and she was trying to understand why. Kai assures her that Arsla must have humanity's interest at heart, since she is the creator of the code holder. They rejoin Raren outside the building, and she wonders if they got anything useful from their detour. Kai is about to recount everything that happened, but Jean blurts out that they had an uneventful expedition because they only saw a meaningless statue inside. They start heading back, but Rayron begs Renee to pick up a winter sage fruit for her. The fruit is a spiritual medicine capable of healing any wound. They return to the camp and continue their journey. Rayron mashes the sage fruit into some medicine and she offers it to Kai to cure his wounded arm. Renee advises Kai against taking the medicine because it's less of a medicine and more of a killing curse molded into a bottle. Rayron insists that Kai tries it and assures him that he will testify to the medicine's potency. Renee dares Rayron to try it first if she is so certain of her craft. Rayron takes a sip to prove that the medicine actually goes down well, but she can barely hold it down for 2 seconds before spitting it out. She hands Kai a cup and assures him that the bad taste means the medicine is more potent. Kai is certain he can hold it down and he gulps it down. The 4 soldiers inform them that they are nearing Yulin's border. Saki pops out of their vehicle and uses a pair of binoculars to scout. She spots something out of the ordinary and she calls Kai's attention to it. From the description, Kai figures out that the building is a graveyard. They step out of their vehicles to observe the structure from a distance, and Jean points out that the building is similar to the one where the heroes were sealed in Kai's old world. Kai speculates that since the structure is in the Yulin Federation, it is probably the graveyard where the spirit race is sealed. Renee abruptly blurts out that they are surrounded, and it suddenly begins raining spirits. Everyone arms themselves and begins firing at the spirits before they can take form. However, their bullets are not enough to suppress the spirits. Jean orders a retreat to their vehicles and everyone scrambles back. They get in and lock the doors while Phelan remains outside to hold off the spirits. She cuts down some spirits, but several spirits merge to form a huge monster spirit. Kai shoots at the spirit with his gun, but his bullets are useless because the spirits' bodies can only be destroyed with fire. Lord Balmung arrives at the scene and orders his flamethrower squad to fire on the spirits. The soldiers torch the spirits and they get dispelled. Tenacious bits of several stubborn spirits merge and form a big spirit. They try to fight back against the invaders, but the commander quells their resolve with one swift strike. Lord Balmung stands over the burning corpses of the spirits and checks up on Urza's rebel army to make sure none of them were hurt. Phelan calls out to Lord Balmung, and he recognizes her immediately. He is excited to be reunited with Fallen because they haven't met each other for a long time. He also welcomes Jean, and she thanks him for coming to their aid. He commends them for holding out for so long against spirits despite being ambushed by a large force. Kai is about to explain how they managed to last for so long, but Phelan turns her back on Lord Balmung and advises Jean to continue moving with the troops. Lord Balmung calls out Fallen for being rude. He is displeased that she turned her back on him when he was still speaking, but Fallen teases him for always talking too much. She doesn't want to stand out in the fields till midnight. Lord Balmung admits that she has a good point, and he concedes. He orders his troops to retreat, but Rinna draws Kai's attention to their surroundings. She informs him that the spirits are still lurking around them. Everyone puts up their guard and looks around for any sign of the spirits. Suddenly, a surge of spirits rises from the ground and engulfs everyone. Both commanders order their soldiers to fire on the spirit mass, but their firepower is ineffective against the spirits. Kai fires his special magic bullet at the mass, but it is also ineffective against it. Jean doesn't want to attack the spirits with magic impulsively. She is trying to be cautious because they don't know the effects their magic would have on them. Kai gets an idea and informs Jean that he will clear a path. He advises her to order the soldiers to attack at once so they can break through. They get back in their vehicles, and Kai pops out from the gunner's hatch of his military vehicle. He loads his gun with an elven bullet and fires it at the spirit wall. This time, the bullet punctures the spirit wall, creating an opening. Kai orders the vehicles to floor it and get through the opening. The bullet is so lethal that the entire spirit wall collapses, and they continue their journey into the Yulin Federation. Lord Balmung commends Jean for having such a useful subordinate, but she points out that Kai is a friend, not a subordinate. She waves off the informalities and decides to focus on pressing issues. She calls for a strategy meeting with Lord Balmung, and he obliges, but he informs them they need to make a stop on the way. They take a detour and Lord Balmung takes them to a lake. He informs them that they initially came out to investigate the lake when they stumbled upon them. Kai wonders how the lake appeared in the plains because there was never a lake there originally. Rinna reveals that Kai is wrong because what they are staring at isn't a lake, but a spirit. The spirit erupts and transforms into a ball. It returns to the group and morphs into a human-like figure. Lord Balmung recognizes the spirit as the Kyoko. He is pissed that she has been hiding under his nose all this time. Kyoko opens her eyes and warns the humans to get out of her way. She morphs her hand into its water form and attacks Kai. Kai barely moves out of the way and her attack leaves a huge dent in the ground. She accumulates more water in her hand and turns it into a giant mace. She brings the mace down and everyone scrambles out of the way. She ended up smashing one of their military vehicles. Kai uses this opportunity to attack while she is wide open. He slashes her into two to expose her soft side, and Lord Balmung commands his soldiers to activate their flamethrowers. They shoot columns of flames at Kyoko, but she morphs into her flame form and takes no damage. She returns to her elven form, and Jean can't believe how powerless their attacks are against her. Kyoko breathes fire on the soldiers, but Kai steps in and uses his code holder ability to deflect the flames. Kyoko notices that Kai is wielding the code holder and she asks him. The last riser suddenly awakens and cautions her because she has established contact with the code holder. Kai hears her voice and wonders if it was Jean or Renee who spoke. But they both deny speaking, and Reiren denies speaking as well. Kyoko demands that Kai answer her question, but Kai is more surprised that a spirit can speak. The sword triggers some PTSD for Kyoko. She recounts what the last human in possession of the sword did for her. Kai wonders if she is talking about Sid, and Kyoko affirms that she is. She reveals that Sid is the existence that all spirits hate the most, but he was also the one who brought her the most knowledge. He taught her how to speak human language so she could understand him. She reveals that Sid told her the world reincarnation is only the beginning, and Kai is shocked to learn that more changes will take place after the world reincarnation. A portal suddenly opens behind Kyoko, and the last riser grabs hold of her. The last riser was drawn to her because she was being influenced by the taboo word Sid. She tries initiating her code to remove Kyoko from the world, but Kyoko morphs into water droplets to escape her grip. She manifests as a huge bubble and hits the last riser with a water attack. The last riser sustains critical damage, so it decides to retreat to protect its sealed body. Kyoko returns to her elven form and informs the humans that their battle is done because she is tired. Her comment falls on deaf ears, and Lord Balmung demands she reveal her nefarious schemes. He thinks she is trying to buy time against them, and Kyoko is charmed by his stupidity. She proposes a ceasefire, but Lord Balmung points out that she was the aggressor who attacked them unprovoked. She explains that she was protecting herself because she thought she was being ambushed while regenerating. Kai wonders what kind of fight Kyoko got into that drained her so much, despite being the hero of the spirits. Kyoko reveals that she was fighting Wrath. She admits that Wrath was strong, but the last riser will be more troublesome because she has been attacked by a similar monster in the past when she was with Sid. Kai is surprised that Sid also knew about the last risers. Kyoko reveals that every race wants what's best for them, but the last risers don't belong to any race. They are the most dangerous creatures because they are fueled by nothing but hatred for the world. Jane consults with Lord Balmung and admits that Kyoko's words are credible. She recounts how the last riser attacked them, Vanessa and Lord Alfreya, just for the thrill of it. Lord Balmung isn't too thrilled with the idea of doing what the spirits want. He points out that they have been at war all this time, and he can't just agree to stop the war. Jean reveals that she has already agreed to a ceasefire with the demons and the Celestials. She points out that he doesn't have to forget about their past and become buddies with the spirits, but it is best to establish a pact to limit future sacrifices. Lord Balmung finds reason in her advice, and he decides to put down his weapon. Kyoko decides to leave now that they have an understanding, but Kai wonders where she will go now that both Wrath and the last riser are hunting her. She points to the graveyard and reveals that she is going there because that was where she first met the last riser. Kyoko reveals that the graveyard appeared after Sid left, and Wrath was the only one who accepted it, while the rest of the heroes were against it. She reveals that Wrath is coexisting with the last riser to find an alternate outcome to the War of the Five Races. She asks Kai to take her to the graveyard's entrance, and Kai leads the way. They get to the entrance, and Kai notes that the entrance is similar to the Demon's Graveyard in the Urza Federation. They walk inside, and Fallen notes that the building is awkward because neither spirits nor humans constructed it. Jean concludes that it must be a megalith. They keep walking, and Kai reveals that he found the code holder just ahead. They reach the pedestal, and the code holder begins to glow. Kai takes it out, and the code holder begins to speak with Sid's voice. Sid admits that he made a mistake and was unable to protect Renee. He begs them to fight to create the future he was never able to make possible. The code holder extends, and it lights up some inscriptions on the wall. The inscriptions open a gate, and everyone gets sucked in. They regain consciousness inside another plane. None of them recognizes their surroundings, and Lord Balmung feels uneasy because it feels like they are being lured into a trap. Phelan feels the same way, and she asks Kai for an explanation. Kai has no explanation to give because he's just as lost as they are. Kyoko suddenly begins walking down the path, and Lord Balmung questions her decision because they have no idea what they'll meet at the end of the path. Kyoko reveals that a powerful magic source is coming from the end of the pathway, and she is going there to investigate. Kai, Jean, and Reiren follow her. They get to the end of the pathway and walk up some stairs to see the statue of Lord Alfreya. Reiren rushes to the statue and places her hand on it. She informs the group that she can still perceive some magic power emanating from the statue. She reveals that Lord Alfreya was turned into a statue using petrification magic, but it can be reversed if they study it. Lord Balmung raises his club to destroy the hero of the Celestials once and for all, but Reiren stops him. Kyoko walks up to the statue and places her hand on it. She reveals that the statue wasn't made by mere petrification because the stone-like appearance is only on the surface. Lord Alfreya is actually frozen inside the cocoon of stone. The others are trying to process this new information, but a portal appears overhead, and the last riser peeps out. It detected their intrusion, and their proximity to Lord Alfreya's sealed body drew it out. It flies down and stands between them and Lord Alfreya. Ryron has been waiting for this opportunity to get her revenge for what the last riser did to Lord Alfreya. Lord Balmung and Phelan also draw their weapons, ready to fight. The last riser decides to focus on the 3 people who reacted when she spoke the taboo word and excludes the others who didn't respond. A portal appears and Jean, Riren, Phelan, and Lord Balmung get sucked in. Renee is worried that they were teleported to a dangerous place, but Kai assures her that they were only separated because the last riser wanted to keep them there. Kyoko agrees with him. She figured out that their presence in the world would be seen as an inconvenience because they still have memories of Sid. The others are dropped outside the building, and Jean immediately starts heading back because she is certain the door to the alternate space would still be there. Lord Balmung questions her motivation to go back because he is certain she can't defeat the last riser. Jean reveals that she can always sacrifice herself for the greater good, even if she is not strong enough. But Riren advises her not to throw her life away so easily. She also reveals that the door to the alternate space has already closed. She suggests they come up with a plan because she has an idea she wants to try out, and Lord Balmung agrees to help her. Inside the alternate space, a battle ensues between the trio and the last riser. Kyoko morphs her hand into water and attacks the last riser, but she nullifies her attack, and Lyoko loses some part of her arm. Kai goes in with the code holder, and he manages to slash off some of the last riser's tentacles. Kyoko backs up and rejoins Renee, who is standing idly in the back lines. She wonders why she is being passive despite being involved in the fight. Renee confesses that she is so scared of the last riser that she can't even stand to look it in the face. She yearns to fight alongside Kai, but she can't bring herself to do so. Kyoko asks her to lend her some of her magic power to at least contribute to their fight against the last riser. Kyoko touches Renee without consent, and she steals some of her magic. Kai is being bombarded by the last riser with sonic attacks from its tentacles. Kyoko intervenes and uses an ice spell to immobilize the last riser. She shatters the ice cage, and Kai assumes that the last riser is defeated because there are no remnants of it. He commends Kyoko for her victory, but Kyoko is uneasy because something doesn't feel right. A portal opens on the ground, and the last riser overwrites its previous code. It comes out of the portal without a scratch, and Kyoko wonders why it didn't regenerate instantly when she damaged it earlier. Kai remembers that it did the same thing when it was fighting Vanessa, and he figures out that the only time it can regenerate is when it is inside the alternate plane they are currently in. Kyoko asks Kai how he escaped the last time he was in the alternate plane, and he reveals that he just sliced the alternate space with the code holder in a panic. Kyoko morphs her hand into its water form and picks up Lord Alfreya's statue. This triggers a reaction from the last riser, and Kyoko confirms that the statue is the most important thing to it. She decides to use it as bait to lure the last riser outside. They take the statue and run away with the last riser chasing after them. Kyoko abruptly turns around and attacks the last riser with fire, but it deflects the attack back at them. Kai uses the code holder to absorb the counterattack, and it accidentally tears through the alternate space. Kai jumps through the opening with Renee and Kyoko, and the last riser follows them. They return to the graveyard, and Kyoko strikes the last riser with lightning now that she is vulnerable. The last riser is reduced to ashes and blown away by the wind. Meanwhile, Riren is forging a weapon using some raw materials. Saki raises some concerns about the amount of raw materials being used to make her weapon, but Riren reveals that it is necessary because normal human bullets are useless. Suddenly, she feels the magic power from a hostile source, and she drops her hammer in a panic. Inside the graveyard, the last riser, Aspect 2, tears through the alternate space and forces its way back. Kai recognizes Aspect 2 as the version of the last riser imprisoned by Renee. The last riser detects them as the intruders tampering with the fate of the world. She initiates her code to take them out. Aspect 2 attacks Kai, and he blocks it with the code holder. Kyoko tries to attack from overhead with her morph hammer, but Aspect 2 blocks it with a shield. Several special bars spring up around Kyoko, and she immediately releases Lord Alfreya's statue as she realizes she fell for Aspect 2's trap. The bars enclose Kyoko, and she gets captured. Aspect 2 begins the execution of the code to eliminate Kyoko from the present world. Kyoko unleashes her reservoir of magic power through her light spell, and it creates a huge explosion. The statue rolls out of the graveyard wrapped in a bubble. Lord Balmung and Jean are still waiting outside, and they immediately recognize the statue. Jean rushes into the building, leaving Lord Balmung in charge of the soldiers. Kai regains consciousness, and Rin informs him that she protected them with a shield. Otherwise, they would have been taken out by the huge blast. Kai realizes that Kyoko sacrificed herself to guarantee their safety, but he doesn't think she should have done so. Jean enters the building and spots them from a distance. She calls out to them, relieved that they are alive, but Aspect 2 starts twitching. Kai looks over and observes that it is trying to get back to its feet. He wonders how Aspect 2 is still alive after taking the brunt of that huge explosion. However, he isn't waiting around to find out. He orders Renee to retreat with him, but Aspect 2 chases after them. They come out of the graveyard and Aspect captures Renee. She initiates her deletion, but Renee conjures lightning, which strikes Aspect 2. Aspect 2 releases Renee and falls to the ground, but it regains itself and tries to attack her again. Kai steps between them and stops her attack. He goes on the offensive and tries to attack it, but Aspect 2 generates a shield to block it. Jean tries to attack from the side, but she also gets impeded by the shield. Lord Balmung attacks from another angle, but Aspect 2 remains protected by the shield. Aspect 2 pushes them back, and Lord Balmung orders his soldiers to begin their operation. He throws a grenade at Aspect 2, and Jean follows it up with flame strikes from her sword. She orders Kai to protect Rennie while they hold off Aspect 2. Lord Balmung's soldiers fire on Aspect 2, but their combined firepower barely tickles it. Ririn returns to the front line with the bullet she forged. She hands it to Jean and informs her that the bullet can ignite a flame that burns for eternity. She warns her not to miss her shot, and Jean lets the arrow fly. She gets a headshot and the arrow absorbs the fire around Aspect 2, but nothing happens. Suddenly it explodes, releasing a blinding white light. The blast subsides and Kai looks back to see Aspect 2 still operating without its head. It tries to move towards them but falls to the ground. Aspect 2's head starts singing and a portal opens overhead. Kai recognizes that the world reincarnation is taking place. Falin orders her soldiers to surround the target, and she approaches it against Rena's advice, who tries to persuade her not to go. Rayrin and Jean follow Falin, and Aspect 2's head initiates Phase 2 of the world reincarnation. It initiates an overwrite of the world hero, and another code holder descends from the portal. A strange character rises and picks up the sword. Kai recognizes the character as Sid, but Sid speaks with Aspect 2's voice. Kai is pissed off that Aspect 2 is just mimicking Sid's appearance. He rushes at it and tries attacking several times, but Aspect 2 fends off his attacks. Renee attacks from Aspect 2's blind spot and lands a hit with her lightning spell. Aspect 2 switches up and decides to capture her now that she is within reach. He grabs her, opens a portal, and shoves her inside. Kai goes on the offensive again in a fit to get Renee back. He attacks with his code holder, but Aspect 2 fends off his attack and sends him flying. Aspect 2 stabs its code holder into the ground while Kai tries to get back on his feet. He looks at Aspect 2, but his vision is blurry. Kai takes a minute to gather himself and he picks up his code holder. He regains his feet and reminds himself that he isn't fighting Sid, so he doesn't have to hold back. He invokes the code holder's ability and slashes at Aspect 2, hurting him. The slash indeliberately creates a rift between the normal world and the alternate space where Renee is being held captive. Renee notices the rift appear, but she can't do anything because she is chained. She has no motivation to return to the battle, but she remembers that she has to keep going because Kai needs her. She breaks out of the chains and flies through the rift. Aspect 2 invokes its own code holder ability and tries to close the rift, but Renee flies out and pushes Kai out of the attack range. Kai is glad to have Renee back, and she informs him that she returned to fight alongside him. Kai turns his attention to Aspect 2. He is certain they will triumph over it because copying Sid's ability isn't enough to make it a formidable opponent. He shoots at Aspect 2 and it blocks with its codebreaker, but the bullet shatters the sword. Kai rushes in and attacks with his sword. Aspect 2 falls for his feint and he blasts it with the dragon in the gun chamber. Kai loses his sword and Rennes rushes to return it to him. Aspect 2 is losing Sid's arm and part of its original form returns. Kai attacks it from behind and hits it with a shoulder charge, which sends it flying. Renee returns to him with his sword and she hands it to him. Aspect 2 attacks Kai with its tentacle, but he blocks it with his sword. Aspect 2 advises Kai to give up because fate can't be changed. It explains that world reincarnation will happen inevitably, and all his efforts to stop it are pointless. Kai pushes Aspect 2's tentacle back and reveals that there is nothing like fate. He reveals that the outcome of the world isn't determined by fate, but by the unwavering resolve of people. He invokes the power of the code holder once again and slashes at Aspect 2's tentacles with all his might. The sheer power of the slash completely obliterates Aspect 2. Kai falls to one knee from sheer exhaustion, but the idea of stopping the world reincarnation gives him strength. He looks back at Renee standing over the portal. She casts a powerful spell to close it, but the spell is so powerful that it knocks Kai out. While unconscious, Kai gets a vision of Renee in chains, and she begs him to save her. He regains consciousness to see Renee sitting at his bedside. He sits up and she immediately hugs him because she was scared he would never wake up again. She is relieved that he has woken up. She has been blaming herself for his predicament, and she wouldn't have been able to live with herself if he had never regained consciousness. Rena reveals that her feelings for Kai have transcended mere friendship. Initially, she was tolerating other humans just so she could continue to spend time with Kai, but now she actually wants him to like her. She asks him what he feels towards her, but before Kai can answer, Ryran and Jean walk into the room. They came to check up on Kai, but they weren't expecting to see Renee in such a questionable position. Jean rushes over to Rena and throws her off Kai. She scolds them for engaging in inappropriate behaviors behind closed doors, especially when Kai hasn't fully recovered. Jean reveals that he has been asleep for 3 days, and he needs to take some time off to recover fully. Kai is surprised to learn that he has been unconscious for 3 days. Ryran explains that he'd lost consciousness after he defeated Aspect 2, and they immediately brought him to the Yulin Rebel Army's hospital to get treatment. Renee woke up a few hours after they defeated Aspect 2, but Kai remained unresponsive. Rayron and Jean turn their attention to Reen. They scold her for taking advantage of Kai because he is vulnerable after just regaining consciousness. They can't believe she betrayed their trust just like that. But Renee argues that she was only doing what felt right. She rats Jean out for holding Kai's hand for an uncomfortable amount of time while he was unconscious, and Rayron for refusing to leave his side all day. Rayron defends herself and argues that she was only staying to give Kai his meds, nothing else. The next day at sunset, they walk down to the graveyard on the plains of the Yulin Federation's border. They enter inside to check on the statue of Lord Alfreya that they left there. Kyoko is with them this time, but she is in a reduced form. Kai is impressed that she managed to survive the blast somehow. Kyoko reveals that she only survived because she split her core before the explosion. She has to absorb a large amount of spirits or an enormous amount of magic before she can be restored to her normal form. Without this, she will remain in her nerfed state for 30 years, utterly useless and powerless. Lord Balmung is less concerned with her welfare and more concerned with ensuring she keeps her pact with the humans. He doesn't want her going off on a rampage unprovoked, because he knows it will be a pain in the neck to subdue her. Kyoko assures him that he can easily squash her if she goes against the truce, because she is weak and powerless. However, Lord Balmung isn't buying her facade of weakness, because he has experienced her power at full strength. Nothing will ever take the memory of that experience away from him, not even her ruse of innocence. Ryron draws Lord Balmung's attention to the statue, and she warns him not to damage it, because he would be incurring the wrath of the entire celestial race if he does. Lord Balmung promises to keep the statue safe and ensure the graveyard is completely off limits. Kyoko points out that they also need to give priority to finding out more about the Last Riser so they can defeat it permanently. Their only lead is Wrath, the only hero who is not a part of their coalition. They decide to continue their journey to find him, and Lord Balmung offers to give them a send-off. They start packing with the help of Lord Balmung and his soldiers while Kai and Renee stare at the sunset. Renee asks him if he thinks the statue of the celestial hero can be reversed so Lord Alfreya can be restored. Kai reveals that it is possible, but he admits that he is not entirely certain. His motivation is to do his best to make Sid proud because he entrusted them with the fate of the world. He has to keep protecting Rinna while ensuring that the War of the Five Races comes to an end.